My name is Natasha Richardson. I go by Mrs. Richardson. I was in the Army. I came in as an E2, which is a private first class. And when I got out, I was a sergeant, which is an E5.
Officially, my name is George Richard Geyer Jr. The Army called me George. Everybody else calls me Dick. I was in the Army with the rank of Major.
My name is Marie Sanchez, and my husband is in the U.S. Navy Reserves.
My name is Mary Lorenzen. My husband was in Air Force when he was 18 in 1965.
So his name was John Lorenzen. The last 10 years of his service, I was
so
around.
20 years in total?
Yeah, so 20 years total.
Hi, I'm Macy Whitaker. My brother was in the Navy. His name was Mark Whitaker.
My name is Kirsten Gunn, and it was my dad, Dick Geyer, who was interviewed.
How was it like when you first enlisted?
Oh my gosh, they woke me up super early in the morning and I had to get on this bus, and I remember the bus breaking down and I was already nervous and I was like, this is a long trip. So eventually I got to basic training.
First day, I was a surgeon. Got there wearing civilian clothes, of course, and signed in and lined up and got a bunch of shots. Got our textbooks and things that we're going to use. We're going to study about tropical diseases and how to treat war wounds and how to put on our uniforms and salute the proper people and all that stuff.
What were some reasons you joined the military?
Everything was going crazy. I was enjoying life. And so I was like, oh, I need to get some stability in my life. So I figured I'd join the Army because I heard like they paid for my housing and they paid money for food. And I was like, oh, that's just what I needed. So that's why I joined it.
We had a draft. All the doctors were required to serve if you hadn't already been in the military prior to becoming a doctor.
How was your day-to-day routine?
6:30, I had to be at PT formation at 6:30, at work at 9, got off at 5 to repeat. So it was kind of crazy.
I had a month of basic training at Fort Sam Houston, which is in San Antonio, Texas. And that was like going to school. Then I went to Fort Campbell, Kentucky. I lived in a duplex with my family, and I went to work at the hospital every day, and it was pretty much like being a normal surgeon in a normal hospital.
How did you first imagine military life? Did it change?
I really didn't think about it. It was just something that I just got up and said, oh, this seems like it's going to fit my life right now. So I really didn't think about it until after I got in it. So I really thought it helped me grow into who I am today. They pay for my education. So currently I have a bachelor's degree and they pay for that, and my master's degree. So they pay for that. So it helped me get me where I am today.
I was a little kid during World War II. I always had a favorable view of the military, but I thought it was a good transition, really, from my residency to real life 2 years later.
What are some words of advice for students interested in serving the country?
Yeah, if you're just trying to figure out, like, what do you want to do with life after you graduate, I think it is a great opportunity to travel the world. I've traveled the world, and so have my kids. So it has really gave me a new perspective on what's out there in the world.
I would talk to somebody who has been in the military. Then I would talk to the recruiters and see what kind of opportunities there are, and also what are your opportunities when you get out. What are the educational benefits and other benefits that you get having served. Be happy.
What was it like when your loved one first got deployed?
I just had my first baby, so I was a new mom. He was only 6 months old when my husband had to leave for pre-deployment training, and everything was just really hard because it was all brand new. And at the time, I didn't really have anybody that was going through the same thing that I was to kind of talk it through.
Actually, my dad's time in the military was before I was born. My siblings were little when he was active duty. And so they have some memories, but not a lot. They moved a couple of times because of the military service, but they were still able to all be a family.
The first time it was Taiwan, yeah. We were stationed in the middle of Taiwan. I went over and stayed with him for a year. His deployment was like 18 months.
And this was during the Vietnam War.
I got to spend a year in Taiwan with him. Oh, I loved it. Where we lived, it was off base in the middle of everybody. And I was the only round-eyed lady.
It was rough. He was deployed from Virginia. I grew up in Indiana, so he is about 8 years older than me. And right when he was 18 and I was maybe 12, he went to boot camp, got deployed. It was really rough because suddenly I couldn't call him and talk to him.
How difficult was it without seeing them every day?
We did things to try to include him in our day-to-day. It just got easier, even though it was still difficult at the same time.
It takes a pretty independent woman to be any kind of a military wife. You just learn to take care of things. That's it.
We're still in Vegas. He had gone to China, and it was like late in the year, so he didn't know when he was going to be back and all of this kind of stuff. And I remember being really sad that he wasn't going to be there for the holiday. And then he showed up like surprised, like I didn't know he was coming, and he showed up and surprised us like right before Christmas. Like only 7 years old, and I remember it really, really strongly because he was gone and then he was there, and then like all these really cool, interesting things that he had brought home.
Thankfully, since he was 8 years older than me, he had already moved out.
Yeah.
But yes, it was really weird to not have him there and present in my life. I would have to call his wife to try and get an update. I know his kids were, he wasn't really present in his kid's life either.
How did you keep in touch with your loved one?
We would send care packages and record little videos in the morning so that it was kind of a part of our day for him to know what we're going through. And so we did little things to include him, even though he was far away.
There was a contact person if there was an emergency.
And then when he was on long deployment, he would send us postcards when he left where he was, and a doll. So I have a doll collection that is from all over the world. So I have like over 200 dolls from the countries that he was in.
It was weird. So it almost felt like he wasn't there anymore. Like you just couldn't contact anyone at all. And he had a wife too. So my sister-in-law was the one who got priority to talk to him.
What are words of advice to other military families?
Just be more supportive. They don't always realize how hard it is to be a military wife. Not every job in the military is designed for war. A lot of it is to keep us from war.
Allowing myself to feel whatever I'm feeling and talking about it, because you go through waves when your significant other is on deployment.
So my dad is a veteran, but my brother-in-law is actually actively serving in the Air Force. And so he's married and he has 2 young kids. They get moved every couple of years. So I think that's just a really different way of growing up than what I personally experienced. To see their family have to like uproot their life and move every couple of years. And there was a year where he was deployed overseas and the family was left behind, and that was really hard on the kids to not have their dad around, and on his wife to sort of be the sole person. It also happened to be during the pandemic. Folks have a lot of varying opinions about how they feel about the military, but I think especially just being really empathetic to families that you know are impacted in different ways, because it's an experience that you don't know if you haven't lived it.
Understand that they have chosen family versus just family. I learned a lot about independence, about, you know, being able to plan, but also pivot. How did she do all the things that she did? Got me to everywhere I needed to go, paid all the bills, took care of everything without that like extended family help. I learned like all of that through watching what she did and growing up through there.
I guess the advice is just kind of hold on to them. They're going through a really rough time. My brother has stated the Navy kind of tore him down and built him back up into a different person. And when he left the Navy, he had to kind of relearn how to be someone outside of the military. I would say just love them. If in whatever state they're in when they come back, just make sure that you're taking care of them.
There are resources out there, Military One Source, and they have counselors available, and only recently I've reached out and looked into those types of things because it's there and it's available to families.